World Theatre Day to fellow thespians who take the stage and set it on fire. You're amazing.
All right.
It's the 27th day of March 2025. This is Morning Cafe. Karibu sana. My name is Ann Odida.
My name is Fred Ndimulda. Nikiwaambia hapa Morning Cafe unaweza kuja na utoke na kazi kubwa. You better believe me. Yes. Yesterday one of my panelists just got nominated for a CS position. How about that? Hapa ndipo.
Oh wow, so una bless.
Ni sisi tuli-nominate, tuli-approve.
Interesting. All right. Tuangalie gazetini leo. Tunaanza na Taifa Leo. Anasema acheza pata potea.
Maswala ya karata. Rais Ruto huyo.
Okay. Allah. Funny, the weather.
Technology. Showdown is a big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. Still talking about matters cabinet reshuffle.
Technology. The Standard, Ruto's blue-eyed boy.
But I'll tell you the twist about him being a blue-eyed boy.
Yes.
Because the Standard is not mincing words. Ruto eats his men. People daily. Wamekuja sana leo.
All right. The Star, Muturi fired.
The rather obvious headline today. Matters business. Tanzania hits Kenya with eggs, sausage, milk taxes. Jirani amesema mko na pesa mutalipa.
All right, let's cross over. All right, before we do that.
Yes, on State of the Nation today we have these four gentlemen: Wilson Sosion, Dr. Peter Mbai, Alex Mwathi, and Professor Fred Ogola. Do stand by for this conversation starting at 6:30. Of course, matters cabinet reshuffle and how this will play in the anticipated trip by the president to Mount Kenya region.
All right, tuangalie gazetini across the region. We start with the Daily Monitor in Uganda. City of floods. Cold hell, heavy rain pounded Kampala yesterday, causing floods that cut off several roads and created heavy traffic gridlock. The rainwater inundated residential areas, destroying property and killing 7 people. Now, this newspaper tells you how to drive through floods, what to do when caught up in the floods, the do's and don'ts.
Yes.
The
second city in East Africa to actually experience flooding. Nairobi, I think we have experience in flooding as well.
Yes.
So now, and we'll be looking at the weather situation. We'll try and see what's happening in Kampala today.
New Vision?
Yes, oil pipeline gets 9 trillion shillings funding. Ukisikia 9 trillion shillings, hii ni pesa ya Uganda, because ukifika Kenya, hii ni karibu national debt yetu. Iko about 11 trillion. A picture now of the flooding situation in Kampala. 8 feared dead in Kampala floods. That's how bad it was. Yeah, and so we continue experiencing some serious weather patterns across the region. We'll be looking at that as well.
All right, let's cross over to Damo.
Yeah, no, we can just cross over to Tanzania.
Let's cross over to Tanzania. The Citizen, what's driving surge in digital payments? Wanasema kwamba the number of mobile payment transactions rose by 26.73% to 641 billion in 2024, while their value increased by 28.54%, reaching 198.86 trillion shillings. Now, Tanzania's shift towards a cashless economy is gaining momentum amid significant growth of digital payment systems, driven by increased adoption of mobile and internet banking and mobile money transactions.
Kwa nyuma yetu tu kidogo
hako mbaya.
Hako mbaya.
Walisema hakuna competition.
Yeah, hakuna competition.
TANESCO accords SGR regional status to ensure reliable power, and the public utility has established a dedicated power line for the Standard Gauge Railway that will be overseen by a regional manager and a full team of supporting staff that will ensure that any issues are promptly addressed. That story is on page 2. And Tanzania government eyes a bigger contribution from minority stake farms. That's the Citizen.
Tukisalia kule Bongo, tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi. Wanasema habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele ni kilio cha maumivu. Wananchi wapingana na mapendekezo ya kamati za RCC, walalamikia kuongezeka kwa gharama, wasema wingi wa wabunge sio maendeleo. And you can see just how big the Tanzanian parliament is. Ni kama hii ya Kenya. Wabunge ndo wengi lakini hata tuwezi afford. Sema kilio cha wananchi ni kuwa kuongeza majimbo kutaongeza gharama za uendeshaji wa shughuli za bunge, wakati jamii bado inahitaji kupata huduma bora. Wanachotaka wananchi, wanasema wanapendekeza bajeti kwa ajili ya kuongeza wabunge zipelekwe kupunguza kero na kuongeza ufanisi kwenye miradi ya barabara, upatikanaji maji safi na usalama, afya na elimu hasa ya ufundi. So public participation there, they say instead of increasing the number of MPs, there are better things to do with that money.
Valid.
Yes. Vidokezo vingine kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili kule Tanzania, dhahabu ya mamilioni ya naswa ikitoroshwa. Jeshi la polisi mkoani Geita linawashikilia watu watatu kwa tuhuma za kukutwa wakisafirisha dhahabu yenye thamani ya zaidi ya milioni 749 za Tanzania kwa njia ya magendo. Ilikuwa ni dhahabu zaidi ya kilo 3. Vigogo 9 waburutwa baraza la maadili. Nazungumzia pia faida ya kubadilisha shuka kila baada ya siku 7 hizi. Pana kulala na bedsheet unakaa nayo 3 months na haijaitolewa.
After every 2 weeks change, even one.
Au umesema siku 7?
One.
1 week. Yes.
It's enough. Sawa sawa, tuangalie weather inakaa vipi leo. It's been raining.
Right. Na ni kama itatupeleka mbali lakini sawa.
It rain away.
It rain away. This is something that we're going to have later today. Distribution of property acquired by unmarried partners and besties. Advocate of the High Court Paul Masharia will be in studio for that conversation. Even as we try and see if at all we can get any other, because maswala ya weather lazima tuangalie. Siku hizi unajua kutoka nyumbani kama ujui kunaenda aje ni mbaya sana.
Yes.
Yes. So let's see. Yes, nice. And we start off here with this map courtesy of Zoom.earth, and you can see the cloud cover that was initially in Kenya is no longer there. Yesterday we had a whole system around Mount Kenya region. It's no longer there today. It appears to have moved to areas around Lake Victoria Basin and parts of central Uganda. Also in Tanzania, areas around Tabora, southern Tanzania, Mpanda. But in Kenya, not so much. So let's start off with the Kampala, because on the front pages we've seen that there are floods there. And there we have it. 19 degrees Celsius. They call it light rain, but you can see thunderstorms to be experienced across the day. And as far as precipitation is concerned, 6.9 millimeters, which is not that much. Probably some relief for people in Uganda and Kampala areas, because initially hiyo mvua ilikuwa serious. Let's come back to Kenya and take a look at Embu, because Embu sasa jana they lost 1 CS and they got another nominee.
God's chosen. 18 degrees in Embu, it feels like it. Partly cloudy throughout the day, lakini hapa kuna mvua. Highs of 26 degrees. Precipitation here is 8.9 millimeters.
That's reasonable rainfall, even higher than Kampala, which is flooding.
Yes. Let's
focus on Eldoret. In the Rift Valley, 14 degrees Celsius. It promises to be very cloudy today. Chances of rainfall, yes, there will be rainfall. 6.1 millimeters. This is decent rainfall for farmers in Eldoret.
All right. Let's cross over to Meru. 17 degrees in Meru, feels like it. Mostly cloudy throughout the day and a very rainy day as well. Highs of 22 degrees in Meru. Kuna baridi Meru. Precipitation here is technology, jamani. It's 21.8 millimeters.
That's the highest rainfall we've seen, eh?
Yeah.
21.8 millimeters of rain in Meru. And Nairobi, kama imepotea, tutaipata tu hapa, because lazima tuangazie Nairobi, waspende.
Yes.
Otherwise, we'll be told ni kama hatujashughulikia the city in the sun, and we cannot afford that. Lakini leo hii teknolojia inaleta shida mingi sana. Nairobi. Yes.
It is. Yes.
17 degrees Celsius, cloudy. Highs of 24 degrees. It promises to be a cloudy day throughout. Yeah, a bit of rainfall, yes, expected here. 5.3 millimeters of rainfall in Nairobi. This is quite decent, and this will start off as early as 7 a.m. and throughout the day it will portend the same. So that's it. Weather situation.
All right, let's take a look at the traffic situation. Need 10 minutes? Yes, 11 minutes. Tuangalie kuna kaaje barabarani Nairobi.
This is central Nairobi here. Major tributaries: Waiyaki Way, Lang'ata Road, Southern Bypass, Mombasa Road, Jogoo Road, and of course ile inalitanga shida nyingi, Thika Road. And for Thika Road, I can see already there's a problem around Garden City Mall. I can see a stretch of red on both sides of the road heading towards town and heading away from town. So there could be an issue around there, areas around Garden City and Gateway Mall. If at all you know what exactly is happening, kindly share with us through our social media pages. Further down, nothing much happening at the Pangani interchange. It's still very early. So if at all you're coming from Kiambu Road, this is the time to leave. You can get to Muranga Road or Forest Road in good time. Kabla wale watu wa Thika Road, they sort out their mess kule Garden City. On the eastern side of the city, of course, Kangundo Road is starting to build up slowly. It's still not that much. Areas around Komarok, Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital and Umoja One Market, the traffic situation building up on both sides of the road, so it's not just coming to Nairobi, to town, also heading out. Further pipeline, this is Outer Ring Road. Leo ni kama watu wajaamka mapema because this traffic is a bit unusual. Yes, kawaida pale matatu around Further Estate and Pipeline, but nothing much after that. Green all the way to Donholm and even past that all the way to Allsops. Those using Jogoo Road, nothing much. Even areas around Makadara, which are usually busy at this time, we're not seeing much traffic. I don't know what's happening. Ama walifikiria leo ni holiday.
You know, they say if you're bold enough, you can start your weekend at Asai. So maybe.
Yeah, it is Thursday actually. Thursday is a new Friday, some people say. Mombasa Road not looking bad. It's green all the way to town. Southern Bypass, nothing to report there. Langata Road, Mbagathi Way, nothing to report. Prestige Plaza along Ngong Road, pale kawaida kuna cross junction. So pale tu sababu ya lights kidogo, but nothing else after that. Wayaki Way ni kama inanga shida coming to town. Wale watu wa shida tu ni wao at Thika Road. But it's smooth all the way.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
True happiness isn't derived from external circumstances. It's an inner creation cultivated through your actions, attitudes, and the mindful choices we make each and every day.
Alright, tazame magazetini. Tunaanza na gazeti la Taifa Leo. Acheza pata potea is the main headline there. Rais ateua mawaziri akihamisha baadhi bila kuzingatia ujuzi au tajriba yao. Taifa Leo. Hatua ya Rais William Ruto kufanyia mabadiliko baraza lake la mawaziri mara ya 3 katika muda wa chini ya miaka mitatu, ambapo alimpiga kalamu waziri wa utumishi wa umma Justin Muturi, inamsawiri kama anayebahatisha kufanya serikali yake kufanikiwa. Aden Duale alitolewa katika wizara ya environment na Deborah Barasa akatolewa katika wizara ya afya, basically to swap.
Yeah, very true.
Justin Muturi akafutiliwa. Naye Geoffrey Ruku akawekwa kule kumreplace.
Interestingly, they are both from the same party, the Democratic Party, and he's supposed to be the party leader.
Yes.
So if fire the party leader, na unaweka jamaa mwingine. Patapotea. Fire the boss, yeah.
Miamba Argentina wanyanyasa Brazil, na Brazil wangali pazuri kufuzu kwa fainali za kombe la dunia mwaka 2026 licha kichapo cha 4-1. Nilipoteza jamaa watano, Shakahola shahidi asema Mackenzie aliongoza ndoa ya wazazi wake kabla ya kutoweka msituni. Somebody asked on X, kitu kesi ilifika wapi?
Hadi inaendelea.
Yeah, you know.
Wanazidi kusikiza wanaitwaje? Witnesses.
Justice delayed is not justice denied. Let's hope. Kimataifa, mwafaka kati ya Russia na Ukraine kule juu, pigo kwa wanafunzi na vyuo vikuu. Mahakama ya rufaa yafuta kwa muda uamuzi kuhusu ufadhili na Waititu kusalia jela kwa mwezi. Baba yao atasalia jela kwa mwezi kabla koti kuamua ikiwa itamwachilia kwa dhamana au la.
Wewe jamaa ameona mengi.
Taifa Leo. Mengi gani na amekuwa tu hapo for some weeks.
Let's focus on the Daily Nation, and of course the same story matters. Cabinet reshuffle, they call it showdown, one word headline. President William Ruto finally fired Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi after months of defiance and direct confrontation, in a move that now puts him in a fresh political dilemma with a hostile Mount Kenya region. Remember, he's still going to Mount Kenya. Picking a sitting MP as his replacement also gives his former deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, an opportunity for a muscle-flexing face-off in the resultant by-election. Was that really thought of? And as far as reshuffling is concerned, Duale and Barasa swap polls, Ruku and Cheptumo appointed in changes. So yes, there's a showdown. Pale unachiki title za wale wawili pale. Rigathi Gachagua impeached, Public Service CS sacked, reshuffled, new appointments. How will this play out in the anticipated trip to the mountain by the president? Another story given prominence pale chini kwa gazeti la Daily Nation, asema students Spain as court reigns states contentious varsity funding model. The Court of Appeal has suspended a judgment that quashed the new university funding model, clearing the way for the government to resume the contentious variable scholarship loan funding model that has been criticized for locking out thousands of students and breaching their right to higher education. This is a suspension, so as the case continues, but things could change. That story is on page 8. Pale juu SMEs conference, state pledges more funding for small traders as KRA plans a reward scheme. That story is on page 10. Now there's a very interesting story about this Kenyan who had been sentenced to death in Saudi Arabia. Wanasema why Kenyan on death row in Saudi may be coming home soon. So something positive from that. The UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar says that through the intervention of the Muslim World League, $1 million, the equivalent of 129 million Kenya shillings, payment to secure Stephen Monyako's release has been made. So if that indeed happens, this is brilliant and a lovely story. Of course, the issue about the continuing interviews for IEBC commissioners. Yesterday, the last of the 11 candidates for position of chairperson was interviewed. Now, starting this morning, the rest of the commissioners.
Including Andy Ruto, Registrar of Political Parties.
All right, yes. Panel concludes interviews for IEBC chairperson. That's the main story on the back page of the Daily Nation.
All right, Gazeti la The Standard, Ruto, blue-eyed boy. Trusted ally. Now, President William Ruto, for the upteenth time, shuffled his cabinet yesterday. Whereas Justin Muturi was the biggest casualty, the president tapped Aden Duale, a man not known for exemplary delivery in the dockets he has previously held.
Rudia hapo tena?
A man not known for exemplary delivery in the dockets he has previously held.
Because you would think this headline is a very positive headline for Aden Duale, but hapa ndo ameficha maneno. That is, previously he's a man not known.
Not known.
For exemplary delivery in the dockets he has
You're trying to
held.
internalize that.
Hey, standard tafadhali.
Wanasema kwamba for the let's take it again. A man not known for exemplary delivery in the docket he has previously held for the cartel-ridden health docket. An appointment that raises more questions than answers. The Ministry of Health is the most contested ministry, arguably.
Yes.
The most scandalous.
And the person who was there before is actually a medical officer.
Barasa?
Yes.
Yes,
she's a
a
doctor.
medical officer.
Right. Now, remove a medical officer, a doctor from the Ministry of Health.
You know, you don't know if you're looking at a crisis in the Ministry of Health again, because as a new faces, the PS appointees, PS nominee. Duale is also new to that. Anyway, wanasema kwamba akiwa Ministry of Defense, military modernization program was given a 4.77 billion shillings for MRAP vehicles, drones and helicopters. Akiwa Ministry of Environment, 500 billion shillings, 10-year program for planting 15 billion trees under government's restoration project. And Ministry of Health, there is 104 billion shillings actualization of Social Health Authority project, 30.9 billion shillings healthcare revival program after aid freeze. Bang or whimper, Muturi exits cabinet. And Public Service CS called for his removal over disagreement with the president. Was it a wise move or a miscalculation? wanasema kwamba him responding, some are saying him responding to the incompetent Attorney General remarks by the president the other day ndio ili
lakini hata president anarusha mawe sana. How do you call someone incompetent before you even fire him?
Another thing is they're saying if he was incompetent as the AG, then ukampatia CS, then what are we doing?
Exactly.
On the top strip of the Standard, a funding reprieve for universities and students. We've talked about that. It's still in court. Health data carted away by US donor and shareholders joy, banks in record profits. The Standard.
People Daily, Ruto eats his men. Still talking about the same, the reshuffle. They say that revolutions can turn to devour their own people. That is what is turning to be true as Ruto turns his sword on close allies in what appears a journey to self-destruction. Now, and they've listed some of those close allies who have actually suffered, like Justin Muturi, of course, his former deputy president, his former very close ally, Dindi Nyoro, Ulu Akiharu. Ruto eats his men. Lakini they have faces of those affected in the recent cabinet changes. Deborah Barasa moved to environment, direct swap with Aiden Duale, who's now the health CS nominee. Geoffrey Ruku appointed public service CS, or nominated for that position. And a new entrant into this is Madam Cheptumo, who's been nominated for the position of CS for gender. Other stories on this front page: why state officials could walk scot-free with billions, and the face of Auditor General Nancy Gathungu there on the front page. Anasema yes, mnaweza shughulika lakini wataenda tu. Uproar over teacher promotions is another story, and a very interesting one for farmers pale chini. Expert demands maternity leave for donkeys. It may look like a funny story, but this beast of burden, even after giving birth, most people who own them just put them back to work immediately. Yeah, like donkey imejifungua sai, mchana unaiambia twende tukabebe mzigo. So actually it doesn't make sense. Experts are saying they're now demanding maternity leave for donkeys. Yes.
They do too much though.
Yes, that's on page 3 of this paper.
The Star Muturi fired as President Ruto makes changes to cabinet.
And I think this is the shortest headline we've seen in the Star in a very long time.
Insiders say he provoked president by firing back after incompetent remark. Tunaona hapa Hannah Wandot Cheptumo to the gender and culture docket. Hii imekuwa imekuwa blank for around 6 months.
Yes.
Since yule was she Lynette? Yes.
She did not qualify.
Yes, she did not qualify. Geoffrey Ruku to public service, Deborah Barasa to environment, and Aden Duale health. A swap hapo kwa wawili. Another story there is Kenyan on death row in Saudi Arabia to return home after 129 million shillings blood money paid. The same story is on the Daily Nation. That's okay. On the top strip, Kenya feels the heat in Haiti as second police officer killed in ambush. Very unfortunate. This story is on page 2. That's the Star, fresh, independent, different.
Let's focus on business and some not very positive news between us and our neighbors. Tanzania hits Kenya with eggs, sausage, milk taxes. Yes, so who sells to who? I think we sell a lot of this to Tanzania. So tariff barriers threaten to reopen a new round of EAC trade wars, charges linked to fall in Kenya's export earnings. Tanzania has hit Kenya with fresh protectionist levies on eggs, dairy and meat products and confectionery like biscuits, upsetting East African Community Customs Union's rule and cutting export earnings for traders. The tariff barriers threatened to reopen another round of on and off frosty trade ties between the two countries, which had shown signs of thawing in recent months. Where? So Kenyan manufacturers actually blamed the discriminatory taxes by authorities in Dodoma for a 4.2 billion shilling fall in domestic exports earnings from goods sold to Tanzania last year, the first drop in 8 years, except the COVID-19. So yes, you can read more on this story, page 3 of the Business Daily. Another story given prominence there, Treasury wants KQ turnaround investor to upgrade JKIA. Watu wanaongea mengi, KQ na make profit. Ambiwa hata huyo mwenye anakuja ku turn around the airline anaweza fanya more work. Ile yenye mulikataa Dani afanye. Anaweza actually upgrade JKIA. On the ticker, wage bill grows fastest in 5 years despite hiring freeze. So hiyo pesa inaenda wapi? Elsewhere, NCBA dividend rises as profit hits 21.8 billion. And finally, state pledges to give more cash to SMEs. And that's Business Daily.
All right, tuangalie masala ya caricature before we come back to that.
All right.
This is the Star,
The Daily Nation.
The Daily Nation. Make your move. Mchezo wa chess pale. Finally.
Finally. Sijaona mtu anasema nifute, tafadhali fire me.
Nifute. He has waited, not we, he. Finally it has happened. There he is, Alifaniki.
So they're playing chess, but they are not facing each other. Interesting. On the Star, this is something different. The IEBC interviews. There are two frames. Yes, this is a standard. There are two frames. Moja wanasema what we see in the vetting and what we get petting. Kuna a lot of politics. Is a matter of the political influence in the selection of candidates for that position of IEBC chair. Will politics take the day? The microphones here are asking questions around competence, education, integrity, experience, ethics, but does it really matter? I mean, it's just politics. That's a standard cartoon. All
right, this is People Daily.
Yes.
As you can see, I have come a long way. This is a caricature of a police officer. Jana, we highlighted that a lot of corruption and fraud in the NPS. Yes. So promotion, favorism, bribes. Kule nyuma tunaona merit.
Maswala ya merit imetupwa kwa takataka. How you rise through the ranks in police is through bribes, favorism, then you get the promotion. As you can see, I've come a long way.
Ni kweli amekama a long way.
The standard, the Star rather, focuses on matters cabinet reshuffle, and they portray the president as a referee. Anapeana red card. Kwa jamaa alikuwa ashalala chini hataki kucheza. Yako tayari hata asinifute ashapewa red card. Wale wengine wanavaa jezi pale. Lakini yeye ashasema mimi hata sitaki hiyo game. Ndio anapewa red card. That's the cartoon on the Star today.
Lakini mbona Deborah anakaa kuchoka hiyo sana?
Ni kama alikuwa amelemewa kidogo.
I'm not happy that Deborah has left the Ministry of Health.
Right, after the break, this will be the discussion with this gentleman, Wilson Sosion, former SGK and UT, Dr. Peter Mbai, leadership and governance expert, Alex Mwathi, political analyst, and Professor Fred Ogola, economics and governance expert. Do stand by for that. Later on,
we'll be talking to Paul Macharia, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, on distribution of property acquired by unmarried partners, besties. Umekuja ukatengeneza, buy land with your bestie, and then you go separate ways. Are there laws that help you to also just get something from the breakup?
All right.
There is.
Tricky. Like
tricky, but court itakusaidia. As long as you got receipts, M-Pesa messages, keep them.
All right. Do stand by for that. I don't know if we have time to check out the traffic situation. Tuone kama pale Garden City may change. No, it's actually getting worse. So you can see this long stretch of red from Kasarani all the way to the Garden City Mall, meaning that if you're using Thika Road from areas around Githurai heading towards town, kuna shida moja kubwa sana. A long stretch pale Garden City, and it's on both sides of the road. So even those heading towards Safari Park will be experiencing this. And what that has meant is that the rest of Thika Road, all the way to the Pangani interchange, is green. Yes, but kuna shida pale Pangani, ila kawaida. So if you're coming from especially areas around Kiambu Road, this is the best time to leave. At least today, barabara ni nywe because wale wa Thika Road are being held kule nyuma. I think that's the main thing we wanted to see. Wale wengine Jogoo Road building nicely, Makadara, at least now we can see red. Everything else, as far as traffic is concerned, is not so bad. That's the traffic situation this morning.
All right. Meanwhile, interact with us on our social media platforms, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube. On X at TV47 News KE, my handle is at Ann_Dida.
And mine is at Fred Indibuli.
Stay with us.
is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m.
I had a problem with the AG who was there. He was fairly incompetent.
In the latest changes by President William Ruto in his cabinet, Mbeere North MP Geoffrey Ruku has been nominated as the CES Public Service, Human Capital and Special Programs.
I have received calls from friends and seen on social media that I have been nominated by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya to be a cabinet secretary.
I mean, government cannot be the one abducting its people.
Ruku replacing Justin Muturi, who has been at loggerheads with the appointing authority, President William Ruto.
But I now have a very competent lady.
If Ruku is approved by Parliament, this will mean a by-election in Mbeere North will be conducted.
And in case the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya does the vetting and I'm successful and sworn in, I will serve the Republic of Kenya in that office with the same dedication and commitment I have served the people of Mbeere North.
The Raila Odinga. Now this is coming just...
Ruku has been a fierce defender of President William Ruto, having defended his tour of the Mount Kenya region on TV47's Morning Cafe Wednesday morning.
Explaining to the people of Mount Kenya about the broad-based government.
President of the Republic of Kenya will be telling the people of Mount Kenya region things to do with development politics. The shenanigans of tribal ethnic politics, he will not go there. The incompetence of one man called Rigathi Gachagua, he will not go there.
In the changes, President Ruto has also nominated the widow of the late Baringo Senator William Cheptumo, Hannah Wendot Cheptumo. President William Ruto has also moved Aden Duale to the Ministry of Health, while Deborah Mlongo was moved to the Ministry of Environment, Climate and Forestry. In the recent days, Mlongo has been at the receiving end from all quarters. Ruku and Cheptumo will now face Parliament for approval. The Ministry of Gender, Culture, Arts and Heritage has been without a CS after the nomination of Stella Soy-Langat as the Cabinet Secretary was rejected after she failed to convince lawmakers that she was suitable for the role. Eric Mnene, TV47.
It is indeed the biggest discussion this morning, that mini reshuffle of the cabinet by President William Ruto yesterday. Good morning once again and welcome back to TV47. This is a Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Indemuli. State of the Nation. This morning we're privileged to have three gentlemen so far. We do expect one more to be joining us. Starting from my immediate left, Dr. Peter Mbai, Leadership and Governance Expert. Karibu sana, Dr. Mbai.
Welcome.
Professor Fred Ogola, Economic and Governance Expert. It's good to have you, Professor.
Thank you, my namesake.
And yes, indeed. And Wilson Sosion, who has served as SG of KNUT and also a member of the National Assembly and a long-serving teacher as well. Karibu sana, Bwana Sosion.
Yes. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning. So yes, all the dailies are talking about this reshuffle. It was expected that yes, Justin Muturi's stay in cabinet was no longer tenable. That I think everyone had agreed with. But what generally do you think about the reshuffle? Did it meet your expectations, Dr. Mbai?
One is that, well, it was coming, and the facts are that it's not the CS who drew the first job. There was a meeting in Embu, and you know what happened? It was construed that he is the one who drove the crowd to reject the president's speech. A lot of messages were done at night, written in him, that he will be sacked. So he said, if I'm going to die, let me die on my feet, not on my knees. And so it has been there. You know, it's not him who drew the first job. So finally it has come. A game of musical chairs. You know, the moist style, go back home, get somebody else from home, so that the battle remains there, you know. So it's about not even Embu now, very north, you know, DP issue. Fight it back there, you know. That's a moist style, yeah. So did it meet expectations? Of course, I will tell you this. Even if you get out and you are here, discuss about Dr. Barasa. Even if you get out Dr. Barasa from health, you bring any other person, decisions are made elsewhere. You are asked, go and defend. Go and defend where the 2.5% is going. Go and defend what is 104 billion. Go defend. That is the whole issue. The whole infrastructure is the one that is wrong. So however changes you make, we were here and we said Dr. Barasa was poached from a high-level NGO world, very qualified lady in this country. Now you see, again, I don't know what happens in Kenya. When you are found as like you cannot fit elsewhere, you are sent to plant trees. I don't know why people hold trees in so little regard in Kenya. You know, you are sent to the Environment Ministry. This lady came, and you could hear how she is saying. She was desperate to communicate something, but somehow the mess is too much in SHA, it cannot be cleared. Now, look at Eden. We all know. I mean, it's there, blue-eyed boy. You know, a system person. He's a person who went and said, we are going to bring this number of million votes of IDs, you know, even before the presidential proclamation. He is seen as this person who shouts. He must shout something to be seen to be in the president's corner. So we don't expect any changes. I can tell you that. Only more, and you see, of course, his demeanor, personality, and style of leadership. Remember what happened in defense, right? Mm-hmm. It is said that, you know, the men in uniform said you cannot bring him back. We don't know. We are just saying. But if that is the same personality, Fred, nothing is going to change. More, you know, force, you know, you must do this. You know, you cannot force people to register by force. The questions we have been asking here, Fred, about SHA and Chief has to be answered. Why move from NHIF? Why not change the NHIF Act? Number two, where is the 2.5% going? Number three, what is 104 billion? What is all that so special? Until you do that, people will not contribute. Right. Many people, most of us, were even helping many of our old parents in our villages to register NHIF because we understood it. This one we cannot understand. So it's a game of musical chairs. These days, being appointed in government, Fred, has been so unlucrative because you don't know. You are not sure. Mm-hmm. Kitambo, it was half-term, you know. The Kibaki days, you serve 2.5 years, maybe a bit of reshuffle, to go another 2.5 years. It started from that, 1 year, 6 months, now it's about 3 months. You cannot be sure. You cannot leave your family and career and say you're going to work for government. It's very, very risky right now.
This is the third cabinet reshuffle in about 6 or 7 months by President William Ruto. If you look at the front page of Taifa Leo, wanasema ni mchezo wa pata potea. Do you understand the thinking behind the latest reshuffle, apart from firing CS Muturi?
Yeah, first of all, allow me, Fred, just to talk to my brother Ambai. When we used to talk on TV47, even right when we were in Westlands, I used to tell my brother Ambai that Kenya Kwanza was designed to fail, and Rutonomics will never work. And he used to argue with me, tell me, oh, the supplementary budget. I should tell him the fundamentals are wrong. So when the fundamentals are wrong, there is no need waiting for something else. But let me go straight to your point. The problem we are having in Kenya Kwanza now with the issue of cabinet, don't even talk about the issue of Justin Muturi. The issue is the security of tenure in the cabinet is even, I compare that, even my house help has a better security of tenure than a cabinet secretary. How can even groundsmen working in State House having better security of tenure than a CS? If the people in the ministry where you are working have more job security than the minister, how can the minister lead them? Kenya Kwanza has never gathered a team to deliver to Kenyans. Kenya remains a group. There's a difference between a group and a team. A group, for example, if you go here along Kiambu Road, there are some people standing on the stage waiting for a matatu. They're a group. They're not a team. They don't even know how the matatu arrives, who gets in quick, fast, who sits where. They'll be fighting to scram into the matatu. So that's what is happening here. The security of tenure is not allowing these people to deliver the work. And fundamentally, I can say that the thing goes into the president himself. Did the president really have a vision? Actually, I'm waiting for one day ever to have a conversation with him that, did you have a vision for what you want to do to Kenya? Because a manifesto he wrote, manifesto must answer the question, why do you want to become president? Secondly, what do you want to deliver? Thirdly, how do you want to deliver it? Who needs to deliver this with you? I'm sure if you go to teams that have won leagues like Real Madrid, Barcelona Football Club, those teams, you know who needs to be your striker, who can score how many goals per match to make you win the league. Mm-hmm. Now, look, see, Minister of Health have had 3 different CSS now, isn't it? You go to the Deputy President, you've had 2. Maybe there'll be a 3rd one. You go to Interior, 3. Now you're asking yourself, how long do you take even to learn? Now I see there's reshuffle in the PSS. How long does a PS take time to understand their ministry or state department and deliver? So it is what I'm trying to say here is that the president is a very good politician, but a very poor economist. Okay. And the incompetence in Kenya Kwanza, which starts from the president, works. And I can tell you, Fred, if the guy at the top is the problem, you can change everybody around here and nothing works. So the common denominator we are having here is that we have a president who is incompetent, who has misplaced priorities, who is focusing on political scores than economic scores, and therefore people are saying, you must go. And I think that's what people are saying. The other time, Fred, allow me, I've been accused for having organized the Nyayo chants and the Naivasha runs on Ruto must go. I simply said that on June 25th, young people went to the street and said, this government, we are tired of it. And that is why I said at the 6th minute, 25th second, everyone should shout what they shouted on June 25th. And that should continue in all sports now. I'm telling people, anytime we have any international or national thing, after 6th minute, 25th second, June 5th, J25, June 25th, everybody should remind this government that they are not right. I've been telling people, when you go to your bathroom, please, on behalf of Kenya, just say, Ruto must go. Because this is something we have to give this call. And I'm very disappointed. These reshuffles are taking Kenya nowhere.
Okay. Bwana Sosion, do you understand the thinking behind the latest reshuffle? Of course, probably getting rid of Justin Muturi, that's understandable. But what is the reasoning behind these other movements?
Away from the poetic bitterness of my two panelists, first allow me to congratulate Geoffrey Ruto, who really was one of our panelists in many of these shows, because now he's been appointed to the cabinet, and this is a very grounded leader, focused, and a man who really understands the policy of Kenya Kwanza administration and why it must be implemented. So I congratulate Geoffrey Ruto. I also congratulate Hannah Wendot Cheptumo, a lawyer of many years standing, very experienced lawyer, going in to man the Ministry of Gender and Culture. And of course, the entry of these two strong people in the cabinet answers the question you've asked me, to make the cabinet more stronger and leadership at the ministries to be executed in a more effective manner, so that services can be delivered to Kenyans. And the president has constitutional mandate to reorganize his cabinet anytime he so wishes and as he finds it necessary. Of course, the last major reshuffle was during the establishment of the broad-based government. To bring in 5 ministers from the Orange Democratic Movement side, and we have seen escalated service delivery within the cabinet and within the line ministries, and we have seen stabilization of politics in the country, and that is going to enable faster and effective implementation of government programs. So fundamentally, I think the president is doing things right. And if you are appointed as a minister, as a cabinet minister, it doesn't mean you must stick there and you work there permanently and forever. If you don't measure up to the expectation, then allow me to ask you a question, because the issue is, for example, Dr. Deborah Mlongo Barasa, her appointment to the Ministry of Health was because she had experience in the medical sector. Now we see her being moved to the Environment Ministry, and we have Aden Duale, who has no experience as a medical practitioner, being moved to from environment, a direct swap to the health ministry. So people are asking, what is the rationale of that? Let me answer you. Anybody can be a minister. You don't need academic specific qualifications of that particular field to be a minister. The minister is the policy leader in a ministry, and therefore anybody with any training background, provided you can provide leadership, can be a minister. That's a fact for sure. So it doesn't mean that the Minister for Education must be a teacher, for that matter. It's not necessarily. It doesn't mean that the Minister for Health must be a medical practitioner, not necessarily, because below the minister, there are other technocrats like the PSS, directors and the rest. Those are, every ministry is rich with the relevant technical technocrats at that level.
I think, Fred, this is unchallenged.
But a minister does not necessarily have to have specific qualifications for that docket.
Okay.
All you need is an overall leader.
And because even I think Dr. Mbaye
just a minute. I'll be very brief. Just 1 minute. I think this cannot go unchallenged, because if we want to compare with the most developed countries that are doing well, if you go to, for example, Singapore, they say they use the best and the brightest to develop their economy. Now, if you say anybody can be a CS, it means there's no need of qualification. When Parliament goes to do vetting, if anybody can be, then why didn't Parliament just say, let the president appoint anybody he wants, because anybody can do that? Because this, what's happening is that we're having a heavy government where expenditure is going into too many advisors because the person being appointed is not competent enough to do their work. Why do you need to sit in meetings being advised throughout your ministry instead of knowing what you need to do in your ministry? Okay. And I think I disagree with the fact that anybody can do anything. Okay. God also has to.
Do they have to be experts?
For me, Fred, it's very simple. A CS ought to have some understanding in the docket. And that's why they look for Dr. Barasa. But we have a system of governance in Kenya today where we don't have set rules or some systems or procedures or systems of doing anything. It is pata-potea, will this work? No. Dr. Barasa is so clean, is so competent, is so a professional to be able to be in a place where already some things are cooking, So she cannot fit there. So, no, you cannot fit. Just move. Who else can fit? Let's look for somebody who is considered an insider, who will get instructions from somewhere, go and implement. It is a whole mess. Actually, it's so sad. If I was to talk to some students on political science and governance, I wouldn't tell them to touch Kenya as a case study, not for these years, because it's going to mess their way of thinking. There's no system. We are not sure. And then, like now, anybody working in government is on their edge. Actually, everybody's looking how to get out at the right time, because there's no future. You cannot say, I'm here because I'm going to say. But let me say this, very important. Fred, let us stop the habit of messing people's names when we don't want to work with them anymore. It is very wrong, even ethically and morally, even before God. Let us not look at what happened to Didinyo. Come on. You have decided to sack the gentleman. Let's just say we no longer need you. It's very painful. Some people may not have the advantage of coming back and fighting. Look here, I was in the team that moved to all the ministries, looking at the performance of the 23 ministries, including the AG. I was seated there as an advisor in the ministry. And we published what AG Muturi had done, including all the other ministries and the commitments. So when you come and say incompetence, it's not right. You don't expect, and you see, being the president, you don't expect now to begin exchanging words with your juniors. Let's be fair. If you don't want, if for some reason you're not able to work with someone, let them go. It's not professional. When you see kids, students, seeing that exchange of words, you're not competent and all what happened. Let us just be a civilized nation because of the future of our kids.
Prof, the other issue that comes up is now the fact that the president has once again raided Parliament to fill up a position in cabinet. And that will definitely occasion a by-election which will cost us money. Is it necessary for the president to be doing these things?
Actually, Fred, I've told you the fundamental problem is not with the people the president is appointing. In fact, I like to agree with my brother that you are destroying people's career by exposing them. The person who is incompetent here is the president. Because if you don't know, like example, if Fred, I'm sure you have a boss in TV47. If the boss identified you as the person who can do what you've done so well and brought you here, if the boss tells you are incompetent, the person who has appointed incompetent person is more incompetent than the incompetent accusation that this person is making. Justin Muturi has worked with the president when he was the deputy president, when he was in the speaker. He was a speaker for 10 years. I think the tag incompetent cannot be put on such a person because Parliament had to do what it had to do. He was Attorney General. Legal advisor to the president. How can you appoint someone to become your legal advisor if you don't know that they are competent? Then later you say that they are like that. So also what's happening is that there must be a reason why, like you said, why this MP has been appointed from Parliament. I think that independence of the Parliament as institution has been derailed, and the president does not believe on the independence of Parliament. Parliament has become an appendage to this one. Now, there should be a by-election. Maybe there is no IBC. The president, is he opening up himself for a battle in that constituency? Because I can tell you, with my brother here, with the Wamunyoros, that seat is gone from him. It will be taken up by the other guy is called Wamunyoro. I'm not saying they are good people. I'm just trying to say that there's a wave going on there. So may take it because of the wave. And I'm sure they're going to use these openings to punish the president. I can tell you, all where there's going to be a by-election, Kenya Kwanza will not retain those seats, even if it is in Rift Valley. I can tell you, because the point has come where things are not working. And then lastly, I think that if you look at the person, in the person here, the name, my brother Geoffrey Ruku, I'm not saying he's incompetent in terms of this one, but the question is, how qualified is him to run public service? And Fred, let me tell you what, as a governance expert, public service is the fulcrum of a government. Public service. We are talking about government services, how people are going to get IDs, how they're going to get passports, how the land can be settled. Even if it is like so land, but public service is the fulcrum of a government. There, you should choose your strongest player, and they should tend to be more permanent than moving them. Now we are going to have the third public, CS public service. So what I can tell you is that if you ask what is the reason justifying the president's appointment, I can tell you it's more political expediency than economic or service delivery, and that's why these are being done. And I was even trying to direct the point with my brother Sosion. When they are campaigning, they promise us Singapore, they promise for us Malaysia, they promise us Japan and South Korea. After they have taken power, they start saying, we are not worse than Sudan, we are not worse than Somali. We should never ever benchmark with who is suffering. In fact, Mandela said, never measure yourself against where you are, but measure yourself, where is the Kenyan potential? Okay. Kenya has a potential of being Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and therefore, any appointments we are making, does it reflect? If you look at the CV of Ruku, isn't it, and you compare with the CV of CS public service in Singapore, it may look like the CV of Ruku is that of a nursery school teacher or, for example, primary school teacher, because that person has 3 PhDs I've checked. He has got... In
history, we've seen that CSs in Kenya do not, and I think you all agree that we've had CSs who do not necessarily equate to experts in that domain.
But you see, Fred, again, the question you ask, in the Kibaki government, nearly 100% of the cabinet was technocrats. In Uhuru's government, there were 2 or 3 CSs who were politicians. Now, when you appoint somebody from parliament directly to come to your cabinet, which has happened, Murkomen resigned from Senate to become a CS. Now the Ministry of Interior is having so many issues. In fact, the performance can be seen. Politicians, I'm not saying they are bad. They are qualified before they became politicians. But now when they come into a cabinet, the people working with them see them more as politicians than technocrats, and that's why there's a disconnect. So I would encourage that we should professionalize politics in Kenya, we should professionalize governance in Kenya, and that may take us somewhere.
Let's take a short break. Let's take a break because we are right on the clock at 7 a.m. So let's take a short break. We'll be back to continue this conversation.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Freddie Dumuli. We continue talking about the biggest discussion this morning, and that is none other than the latest cabinet reshuffle by President William Ruto. Still in studio with Wilson Sosion, Dr. Peter Mbaye, Professor Fred Ogola, and also now welcoming Alex Mwathi, who's a political analyst. Karibu sana, Bwana Mwathi.
Asante.
Just before the break, I wanted to give Bwana Sosion an opportunity to talk about what we were discussing.
Yeah, thank you. You wanted me to comment on what my fellow panelists have talked about in the most bitter way, but I'd like to correct certain facts.
I think let's assume the string to
President Kibaki. President Kibaki in 2003, during his establishment of the NAC government, appointed ministers from amongst members of parliament. That was a fact.
But I apologize because there's a technical issue. So let me give this opportunity to Dr. Peter Mbaye as we sort out that.
Thank you. You asked a very specific question. How comes the Honorable Ruku was picked from Parliament? And that question was asked by actually a retired ambassador yesterday. He asked me why. This is what I think. The MPs, this is like where you go fight and you want the spoils yourselves, not for anybody else, yourselves. You see, it is us who removed, Rigathi Gachagua. It is us who are fighting to remove Justin Muturi. We don't care anybody else outside there, us. They may have gone, the MPs from Embu, and demanded one of them to be given. It is man eat man society right now. Because now they can see the spoils, they want to get it themselves. That's what I think. Because why? There were other people outside, surely. Do you have to necessitate a by-election just to please one person? That is the question people are asking. Is it necessary? There are so many competent and better people, right, who could fit in cabinet. So I think from a political point of view, they may have come and said, us, we are the MPs who have done this. We are the people who helped you to fight Gachagua. We are the people who have fought for this guy. We are embarrassed. We want one of us. That is what would have happened. That's why, he had no options. Like we say right now, the president is in a very vulnerable position. Whatever people could demand, he's giving them away.
Let's invite Bwana Mwathi into this conversation, of course, even as we sort that out. Don't worry, Bwana Sosion, we'll sort you out shortly. Bwana Mwathi, I just want to gauge your feeling or assessment of the latest cabinet reshuffle. What do you think was the thinking behind it?
Number one, for anyone in this country to think or believe that this was a surprise move, we just maybe visited Kenya recently. It's known that for the last couple of months, Mr. Justin Muturi has been speaking against the government that he serves. And there have been very many calls for him to resign from the cabinet. And the bone of contention was the fact that last year, during the Gen Z demonstration, his own son was abducted, supposedly abducted by men who looked like security officers. And after the abduction, looking for the boy and whatever, there were many rumors around that. He came up with a statement a couple of months ago stating that he went to State House and talked to His Excellency, the President, and the President called the NIS director, and that evening his son is released. According to him, in earshot, unfortunately in law, conversations are nothing because you can't hold it as an evidence. But in that conversation, the President is supposed to have spoken to Nurdin Haji, and Nurdin Haji had promised to do something about it. Remember, he had gave a story about how he was not able to whatever. At that point, Justin Muturi was setting himself very close to the cross so that he could be crucified.
Are you saying that this entire reshuffle was just because of Justin Muturi?
Any reshuffle has to do with sometimes only one item. Because once you remove Muturi from the government, who do you put there? Number one. And then as a leader of the government, he has to think, how do I move my people around? Or let me take that opportunity now to move my people around. You'll also remember that Deborah, the CS for Health, has had her own share of issues in the last, again, couple of months, especially because of the Shashi Shoshu. Because people have been complaining. You remember at some point, some patients were allowed to go to her office.
Okay.
And
please, I'll have to cut you short because we're experiencing some technical hitch as we speak. But Bwana Sosion, you're okay now?
Yeah, thank you. I want to believe I'm okay. Yeah. So I said I wanted to make a correction that Kibaki administration was made up of ministers appointed from among members of parliament, but not necessarily technocrats per se. I think we got to speak truth and speak facts. The Constitution 2010 of appointment of ministers from outside parliament commenced in 2013. So that correction has to be made. And when I talk of anybody being appointed to government, it doesn't mean every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Anybody with any qualification, regardless. But then you must be qualified and be competent to serve as a minister, and you can serve in any ministry. You are transferable at the pleasure of the appointing authority. That is our constitution.
Can you define qualification?
The constitution doesn't remain suspended, and that is why vetting of parliament is important, to ensure that you meet the minimum requirement and you have the necessary competencies and skills to run that particular ministry, because you are recruited on the basis of a ministry, but you can be transferred to another ministry. And we don't need to talk so much about Justin Muturi. Justin Muturi, before the public and the world, sacked himself long ago and absconded up to 4 cabinet meetings. And the president has been quiet about it. Characteristically, if he missed one cabinet authoritatively going by the past presidencies, then he should have been sacked. And it's not a human right for Justin Muturi to be a minister and to be a CS and to defy the cabinet, not just defying the president, but defying the cabinet itself, and that is acting unconstitutional. And so he had to go. He had sacked himself. In fact, what the president simply did was to appoint a replacement for a cabinet secretary who had technically resigned and abdicated duty. And the president can appoint a minister from anywhere, from parliament,
it's a necessity
or outside parliament. And this
is necessary to occasion a by-election.
Not if the needs of the country in terms of a personality. And we know Geoffrey Ruku. Geoffrey Ruku is not a new face in Kenya. He's an astute public debater and an intelligent man and experienced leader of his own right. And he has firm and grounded leadership and is a clear-minded person, qualified to be appointed to the cabinet. And that is what the president did. Right. And so there will be nothing wrong for Mbere people having a minister derived from their own member of parliament and electing another member of parliament. That's double benefit. So when we talk of it's costly and whatnot, democracy is expensive and leadership is expensive. And when anybody deserves, to serve in another position, you can be appointed, and that's not going to be the first. And I still say, however much you discuss cabinet reshuffle, this is not going to be the last. Reorganization of government, this is not going to be the last. I told you, ministers were appointed from ODM, the other side, for purposes of broad-based. And we saw changes yesterday, further changes. And last week, we saw 4 new PSS appointed from ODM and more state departments created, and that is going to enhance efficiency in government. And the president has made it public. It is not in secrecy that I want a united country and we want all groups, and therefore he will, as he continues organizing government, he will be making appointments which are permitted by Article 132 of the Constitution. You cannot tie the hands of the president from exercising constitutional powers given to him.
I want us to move this conversation to the much anticipated trip by the president to Mount Kenya and see how this latest reshuffle will play into that. So to set the stage for that, we do have the story about President William Ruto's Mount Kenya Jitters that we prepared here at TV47.
An imposing billboard put up by Mathira MP Eric Wamombi in Karatina town to welcome President William Ruto to the restive Mount Kenya region next week has become a talking point ahead of the president's tour, with allies of the president and former DP Rigathi Gachagua trading barbs amid fears the tour could be rocked by chaos, like it was witnessed during the president's tour of Nairobi County 2 weeks ago.
What we saw also in Nairobi during the president's visit should not be allowed to happen in the mountain. That when he comes, goons join his entourage and they rob people. We saw it in Nairobi. We do not want it around. Let us have peaceful meetings.
Na mimi ninataka kuomba vijana, mtu asitumiwe kukuja kuharibu mkutano wa rais. Mtu akijaribu kukuja kuharibu mkutano wa rais atapambanwa na yeye na mkono wa serikali, si ndio?
Apart from the Nairobi tour, Gachagua's allies drew their concerns on the use of goons allegedly hired by Ruto's allies in 2 barrios, one in Limuru in November last year, where the former DP fled for his life, and a second barrio in Kiamba this month, which the former DP escaped after learning goons were waiting for him.
Wacha nione kwa mikono Rais William Ruto umekaribishwa hapa Murang'a County.
Gachagua's allies have put the president on notice ahead of his visit, reminding him of his betrayal of the region and unfinished projects after impeachment of Gachagua and the removal of Gachagua's allies from House committees.
Nobody should lie to the president, and especially in Nyeri, that the people have moved on. We have moved on, but there is still those, the scars are still there. People are bitter. They still consider that one a betrayal.
No one is going to stop the president from visiting this region. He is the president of the Republic of Kenya, and he is going to reside here in Mathira. The state lodge is here in Mathira, in a village called Wamunyoro.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, CS nominee for Public Service Geoffrey Ruku, and other leaders have rallied the region to welcome the president in his first tour of the mountain after 6 months. On a day they inspected development projects in Mbeere North.
Mimi niko hapa area nasunguka hiyo Nairobi siendi huku tukipangana na hii wananchi wa Mbeere North tukingojea rais kwa hamu na gamu. We will welcome him kama shujaa wa taifa letu ya Kenya.
Tuko na program kubwa ya kufufua zile barabara zilikuwa zimekwama katika sehemu hii yote ya Mount Kenya and across the country.
With expectations high on the tour, especially on stalled projects spread across the region, political analyst Professor Peter Kagwanja says it's too late for the president to win support in the mountain.
Because this is a losing game. Because Mount Kenya, the ideology that enabled him to get to the pinnacle of power in Mount Kenya is gone. that miracle has dissipated. So it's a waste of time to that extent.
Apul Kamau, TV47.
All right, even as we continue to consider the thinking behind the reshuffle of cabinet, let's now tie it to this anticipated, much anticipated trip to Mount Kenya. When Matthew, I'll come back to you. You were talking about the reshuffle, but could you try and see if at all it has any implication on the anticipated trip?
Just to conclude, what I was talking about is, and I'm not sure whether my colleagues had spoken about it before, is the issues that were in the Ministry of Health. And as a leader, you have to look at where you have issues, problems, or people that cannot be able to be seen to be doing their something. Because really, we know from whatever you've seen on media and all that the depth was too much for the CA, Deborah. So she had to be moved out. So this is an opportunity that a leader in any organization, even if it's a private company, that when somebody resigns, then if you have an opportunity to be able to shuffle your lieutenants, you reshuffle them accordingly. So this is a good opportunity. Get her out. She's an able lady. It may be the issues that in the ministry that she was not able to handle. We've always heard of cartels there. And these cartels must have been the ones who allowed some people to actually go to a boardroom. I kept thinking, how do you get into a boardroom to go and create fracas in a minister's meeting without being allowed by the security team downstairs? I mean, it's not possible whatsoever. So it must have been organized by the cartels to put the minister in the wrong light. Yet, she herself went to Senate, went to Parliament, and she was not able to explain the Shashi thing at all. It was too deep for her. She was not able to do that. What an opportunity for you to move her out and place somebody else who might be able to do that. Because Duale has been a lieutenant to the president. They've been together since those early years of ODM. And when Ruto disagreed with Raila at some stage, Duale went with Ruto. So he's been his right-hand man. He's a man to watch for. And we hope that now that he's given that docket, he'll be able to do a better job than Deborah and the lady who was there before her. Having said that, the appointment of course, now that Muturi had already resigned from government and put himself very close to the cross so that he could be crucified. Now that he has been crucified and gotten out, just at a time when the president was supposed to be going to Mount Kenya, in my thinking, the president was taking time to remove him because of this anticipated trip. But I think after the last stroke where the president said something and the following day he went against what the president said, now that broke the camel's back and said, okay, come Mbaya, let's do it now and finish with it. And appoint somebody within that area where he'll be starting his visits so that people will be excited about one of our own being appointed as CS, so that the feeling on the ground, hoping that it would shift towards supporting his visit to Mount Kenya region. Kenyans, we receive visitors everywhere. And normally, it's only when people are excited that people go against anybody that wants to come and visit, because people can stay at home. And that visit now is given some fuel because Ruku now is a cabinet secretary, nominee cabinet secretary. And because of that, people would want to come and see this man who has appointed our son. So in Mbere, I think he's sorted out. And you remember that even the deputy president comes from there. The areas that are interesting will be to see is Muranga and Nyeri. But people, I believe, will go and listen. We listen, we don't judge.
All right.
We listen, we don't judge. The challenge is this. In the last visit for Nairobi, people used to send each other memes on where the president was visiting. But the sad thing was that those memes were not about, let's go and meet the president. It was to advise people which places to avoid to go. And what one hopes is that, that what we are seeing in social media in terms of what have been prepared in terms of money, that is not true, because that could follow the trip. Yeah. But he should be welcomed. He is the President of the Republic of Kenya. If you don't want to go for his meeting, just stay at home.
Right. And Bwana Mwathi has made a bit of mention on it, the fact that President William Ruto appeared a bit reluctant to fire an already errant cabinet minister because of this trip to Mount Kenya. Then days to the trip, he decides to actually do it. Do you think that will in any way affect the trip?
It was demanded. Let me tell you what happens. The people who were part of the anti-Gachagua team demanded he must do it before the trip. It was one of the conditions. That, I mean, you know, this is person who has been acting ABCD. Of course, the president is a politician. He knows the risk of sacking Justin Muturi. Even today, he holds, of course, a bigger sway. He had, for those 3 months since January, Muturi has managed to hold Kenyans' imagination about the ills in government, abductions, all that, and he has come out a hero. Whichever way you want to look at it, he has come out a hero. I mean, you cannot compare the political weight of the Honorable Ruku, you know, who is a first-time MP, and Justin Muturi, who has had networks in this country for the last 30 years. You cannot compare the two. So he knows, the president knows, he had to make a choice. But I can tell you today, the people who are leading him, the people, the team, this small team of MPs from Mount Kenya, they demanded that, no, we can't go with you with this man here. That was a demand that was put on the table, that one I can tell you. And of course, because he wants to please Mount Kenya East, you know, so much as against, you know, the whole idea of divide, you know. So he had to do that. He had no option. So that's the whole issue here. But allow me to say this. Fred with a very heavy heart, what the president is doing is that he wants to test waters in Mount Kenya, right? He is not very sure. So he believes, one of the assumptions he makes, which is a wrong assumption, is that I had a personal problem with the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, not the mountain. That's the first thing he's saying. And so he's saying, despite all what is happening, I want to go there. Remember, the MPs had warned him, let us postpone the visit, right? He said, no, I must go. I'm the president of Kenya. Then he was told, why don't we then meet at Sagana? Then we have delegations. He said, no, I have to move around the way I've been moving elsewhere. So, and you see, it's quite forceful, you know? He said, I must go. Now, this is what is going to happen. Unfortunately, when the environment finds a toxic political environment, it suffers immensely. Now, Mount Kenya people are saying, first of all, can you finish the projects started by the former president, right? Number one. Number two, don't tell us anything new. Don't promise. We have the economic charters that were signed by every county, that were put in the manifesto, Kenya Kwanza, then that were removed and put in the line ministries for implementation, right? So we are saying, don't promise us anything new. Just come. Actually, the word area was, finish first of all what was in the pipeline, you come and launch. Okay? But of course, the president being a person who likes going, you know, doing politics and all that, he has decided to go. Now, the only issue here I see is that, and we want to plead, the fact that he had decided to go, we are saying, Mount Kenya people pay taxes. Come and do your duty. But we are done. Politically, we are done. We can't refuse you to come. Come and do your duty if you want to do, because we expect the roads and all that. But politically, the nexus between the current administration and Mount Kenya people hate something called political blackmail, conmanship, and deceit. What the president said, you remember, he doesn't know, he talked about that a lot during the last term. So that is what they hate. And Mount Kenya people, Fred, will not go to Mandamano. If they are upset with you, they'll keep quiet. You see them standing, but they have made a decision. They have made a decision. At least they know who not to vote for in 2027. They may not have agreed on who to vote for, but they know one person who they are not going to vote for. It is that serious. And remember, Fred, it is very simple. Mount Kenya said, this man president has helped our son, 2013, 2017, right? So please, let us be understood, tafadhali. He helped our son. So the Mount Kenya people went against their own son, Uhuru Kenyatta, and voted William Ruto to a man. So after the betrayal, it is hurting. And they said, fine, you have done this, so let us remain, let's see what will happen. So that's what the Mount Kenya people are.
Prof, do you think we're making much ado about nothing? Why are we so focused on what will happen or not happen in Mount Kenya? The president has been going around the entire country.
First of all, Fred, let me tell you that you are very right that we are trying to do what is not necessary. Fred, what is the Kenyan question? If you go to my village in Ugenya, or even if you go to Kilifi, you go to Kwale, you go to Taita Taveta, you go to Tana River, you go to Nyeri, the Kenyan question is economic. The president is using a political answer for an economic question. And that's why there's a lot of disconnect between the president and the 53 million Kenyans. In fact, don't even make this a Mount Kenya issue. Don't even say Mount Kenya has decided. Literally, Kenyans are seeing that we are asking for fish, but you send a stone, or you send a snake. We're asking for ugali, but then for you, you throw a stone at us. So this is what Kenyans are saying. If you go and ask people, what do Kenyans want? It's not just Mount Kenya. Kenyans want something very special. And I can tell you, if you want to understand the president, me understand him because I do a lot of analysis. The president, why even he has appointed Ruku as an MP to become a CS, the president believes that he works with elected officials because elected officials have followers behind them. So if they are in his government, now he's saying that by giving Bere a CS, the people who are behind the MP, because also he was doing very well as an MP, I can say that, Ruku, I think is my friend. He was doing well as an MP, so all the people who loved him will now love the president. He thinks that love can be transferred, and that is wrong. Fred, my wife can like me, isn't it? But if you are my friend, it doesn't mean that if you are my friend now, your wife will like me, you. You can't transfer love just because you are somebody's friend. You cannot even inherit your friend's wife. So this is not possible. But if you look at what he did in 2022, he went to Mount Kenya and took all the Mount Kenya MPs. Rigathi Gachagua was people singing him, Ichung'wah, Ndindi. By having all these people singing about him in Mount Kenya and made him win Mount Kenya, he still believes in the same thing. He's doing the same thing in Luo Nyanza, getting Raila Odinga, plus all the elected officials beginning to be choir members. So that's his playbook. What I want to tell you is that President William Ruto has a political playbook, but he doesn't have an economic playbook. Unfortunately, Kenyans are looking for an economic playbook. Okay. They're not looking for a political playbook. And let me go here. Mount Kenya people are not stupid to be brainwashed by visits. Mount Kenya has had presidency for 35 years. Mount Kenya has had 3 presidents. So what they are looking for is the milk industry working, dairy farming. If he delivers that, people listen to him. I am advising him for free. Secondly, tea, coffee. Mount Kenya is talk about the Mau Mau Road. Mount Kenya also suffers from, because they are a big population, so whenever education suffers, the bigger chunk suffers. If you go to healthcare, like I can tell you, the other time I was in Kagio. Kagio, I have so many supporters there, unfortunately, Fred. And I see... Unfortunately? I'm saying unfortunately because I'm sure he might not want to believe it. If you go to Kagio, I was in Kagio town. I saw people with so many vehicles, and Kagio, I saw them on a level 3 road. If you go to my home in Ugenya, even level 1 roads are not developed. I see people parking cars, like I don't see those cars in a village like mine in at home. Meaning that Mount Kenya people have assets they have to keep. Whenever the economy suffers, the people who are having more assets suffer more. Okay. So if the president can go to Mount Kenya with the economic playbook and serve it will work, and let me end by saying this. As people went to the street on 25th of June, our question is economic, not political. And I want to ask these members, my friends here, we are coming up with a bill that must be accepted to change the economy of Kenya so that you can engage the government and members of parliament positively rather than rejecting. You know, when you reject, you go home with no sugar, you take porridge without sugar, you don't see mandazi for tea. But we want to come up with a bill so that 25th of June, we want it to be accepted to change the problems we want to solve because these guys have no clue what they are doing.
Okay. Finally, on this issue, Bwana Sosion, the president has been around the country and the tours are touted as development tours. But the one in Mount Kenya is seen more as a political tour than any other thing. Do you agree?
No, that is a wrong judgment. It's being extremely prejudicial because the president has not gone to the mountain so that we can actually account exactly what he has done, whether it's politics or whether it is development. I wish to state as follows, that one, even from Mbaya's point of view, he said, no, Mount Kenya, we are done. How sure are you? You speak for yourself as an individual. And I think it is time we let Mount Kenya people be, rather than a few individuals masquerading that we are speaking, the position is this and that. I think that is very undemocratic. It's uncivil. It's not right. And it is not the time to do that. And the president will visit Mount Kenya as a president on the basis of development. And nothing much will be different from what he did in the tour of Western Kenya. Nothing much different from what he did in the tour of Northeastern Kenya, the coast, Nairobi, because people must be mobilized around the transformational agenda of the country. And let me tell you, Fred, President William Ruto has been in Mount Kenya very extensively, more than any other president in terms of visits. And it's not new.
But he has stayed away from the region for the last 6 months.
It's not new. But now he's going back to the mountain. And he had stayed, when was he last in Western? When was he last in Coast? When was he last in Northeastern? Kenya is vast, and the diary of the president is so extensive. And let me tell you one thing, just a political answer. If there is any region that is in the heart of the president, and that he has collaborated and worked with, politically speaking, it is Mount Kenya. And if we talk about owing appreciation to somebody, is it not William Ruto who supported Uhuru to be president in 2013? Is it not William Ruto who supported again Uhuru to be president 2017? That's a political fact which cannot be written off. And trying to bring in the issues of some errant individuals who have failed to conform with the governance and presidency of President William Ruto to look like you want to whip the entire region politically, I think is wrong. It is too early in the day. Let the president, and he will visit the mountain, he will work with the people of Mount Kenya, right at the heart of the president, as far as those of us we know. He has a lot of love for the people of Mount Kenya. And the charter that is signed with the Mount Kenya counties, that's a fact. Yes. The charter that is signed with the different counties of Mount Kenya will be implemented. He will be looking at programs in agriculture, issues of tea, issues of milk.
Do you agree with this that's a fact political promises that the president has made that he should go and talk about the same?
I listened to Mwalimu, and I can pick two things. One, he castigates Mbai for generalizing issue, yet he does it. So you wonder whether he means what he says or he says what he means. And it's a dangerous situation. Our issue, Fred, and that's something that we need to agree, is that we have politicized ourselves to the level where we no longer think. To an extent, today, our debt is hitting 11 trillion. Today, we have a medical scheme that people are paying for that the government itself has admitted is not working. We heard Governor Muturi the other day saying it. And we have seen the minister go before public institutions like Parliament and Senate, and she can't explain it. I have a patient, a cancer patient. The chemo that she's getting is specialized. It's breast cancer. It's about in Nairobi Hospital and Aga Khan Hospital only. And the bill is 350. SHA has promised to pay 25,000 shillings, only if she goes to level 5 hospital in the government. So it's not working, basically. We have a housing fund that people have questioned. We'll see the veracity of that over time, because the promise was 150,000 houses per year. We are doing hardly 4,000 a year, meaning you have a shortfall of 156, yet people are being deducted money. Is the affordable housing program bad? No. Is a new medical scheme wrong? No. Is the implementation. So instead of concentrating on making these things work, for the country, for the people that elected. We are in a campaign mood, which is what Mbai is talking about. Mount Kenya not saying that we'll never vote for this guy. Let him come and see us. We have Socio now assuming that this guy loves Mount Kenya so much that their leaders don't like him. He loves them so much that their leaders don't like him, because we've seen the movement. So that as a country, we are gripped, Fred, by a sense of campaigning 24/7 and forgetting about this life is about making it better for ourselves every single day.
All right.
So that a visit like this to Mount Kenya region would have been a good thing. First of all, let's remember that when promises are made, as a country, if we step back, we know we are a democratic country. So no one individual can decide which projects will be done. So promises are empty as long as there is no paper in parliament or somewhere that approves that project. If you say that Mombasa Road will be done, we know it will be done. Why? Because the cabinet paper, there was something that went to parliament, it was passed, somebody was appointed to be able to do that. Who is saying that he's finishing his due diligence, whatever he's doing, by the month of May. That project is promised, it will happen. Just saying that this will be done, this is not, it's not my private business. You know, my private business, I decide what to do and I do it. Mm-hmm. And by the way, it's also not, I cannot do everything that I want to do, even my private business, because KRA will come for me. If Mbai has a business and he wants to withdraw money, at some point during the audit will ask, why did you withdraw this money? Bottom line, Fred, one wish is that as a people, educators as we are, we would stop this political shenanigans and be able to ask ourselves, where are we taking our country? Mm-hmm. Where are we taking our country? We focused and we talked here with you. 2017, as soon as the election were done, 2018, Raila came into government and was campaigned for 2022 immediately. 2027, campaign for, 2022, campaign for 2027 has started in earnest. We've forgotten everything else. And what we are focusing on is who likes who and who doesn't like who. Mm-hmm. What does it matter? What matters is my patient is able to get treatment in hospital, right, paid for by the money that I am contributing.
Okay.
Fred, one of the poignant points that's coming out is this. Long before even we go to the Mount Kenya issue and the impeachment, remember, there has been that issue of how economy is not working for Kenyans. Now, what Alex is saying, when I assume Kagio Market or Muranga or that town that person passes, right, people be asking themselves, what is SHA? My mother cannot get treatment. NHF, I was able to pay 500 and get some treatment. People will be asking themselves, the Auditor General has raised questions. Who is your own employee? It's a government, it's a state officer, right? Where is the 2.5 million going? Who are benefiting from our money? This must not be, these are not ordinary folks from Muranga. These are big fish, right? Mm-hmm. They will be asking, what is 1.4 billion? Who are involved? What is all these deals? They will be asking, why tax me both? I have a mortgage. I walked to one of the bank managers. Bank managers, Fred Masi, I was so embarrassed before I left government. And she really harassed me. She was like, how do you expect I have a mortgage? She asked me, I have a mortgage, I'm paying my own mortgage. Then you are forcing me to be deducted money for housing which I don't need. So people are angry. So people will be asking, this university funding model, okay? Questions are there, not answered. Then you look at a report that was released the other day by the Auditor General, right? She specified on the main, flagship manifesto projects of the Kenya Kwanza government. 6 of them, the Hustler issue, the SME, and all that, digital superhighway, and all of them were like 30%, 20% issues. The question people will be asking, Fred, yes, okay, fine, you go by force, you bulldoze parliament, they pass laws, you deduct money from me for housing, then you go and take it to the treasury bills. Look at the bitterness. So, and that's why I think Professor is saying, it's a whole national anger. People are angry, like, please, this is what you promised. Now, Mama Boga will be waiting. And if there's a place where Mama Boga were fed with stories, it's Mount Kenya region. Mama Boga, you know, vijana ya boda boda, you know, watu ya matatu, all those people will be waiting. And they are like, what happened? That kind of bitterness, that kind of anger is what will be facing the president. Now, of course, added now to the political mis-equation, right? Now, you can imagine that thing boiling. And then, you can imagine, Fred, it must be very sad for the system that they would go to Mount Kenya. People would line up waiting for them. But today, they have to go distribute aid for people to come to meetings. Number two, they have to hire 1,000 young people. Each one carry 3 people to go around in meetings. It is so painful. And let me tell you, Fred, never joke with people who are loyal to you and they are ready to support you from their hearts. Okay. The moment you can never buy loyalty. Those are the issues. Those are the issues you are talking about.
Because of time, allow us to move on to something else, still connected to that. But because one of the promises, and this was a political promise that the president made when he was campaigning for presidency, was that he would never engage in anything that would look like the handshake that his predecessor had with Raila Odinga, and that he promised the people of Mount Kenya. He even demonized the handshake as his way of campaigning in Mount Kenya. Now he's going back weeks after this kind of deal he has gotten into with Raila Odinga. That on one hand. On the other hand, Raila is still insisting for the second time in 1 week that he's not in government. We just have about 2 minutes each so that we don't take too long in explaining that. Professor, go first.
First of all, I'm sure the handshake thing, people are tired of it. Some of us have seen that it's not the solution to the problem, because I told you that the Kenyan question is an economic question. What I'm wondering with the president is he's 2.5 years halfway. He still has 2.5 years, and he's looking for second term. Why not do something with what you have instead of spending time to look for what you have already, and you're doing nothing with it? Because when you go to Mount Kenya and promise them something, you're promising them, when are you going to do it and you're in office? So I can go and now tell people of Mount Kenya, if you elect me president, I'll be able to talk about coffee, tea, and the rest. But now, do you think that the handshake was a Kenyan question, was answering the Kenyan question? And then secondly, Fred, unlike other handshakes, this handshake was useless. Why? Because there was no necessity. You know, the other handshake for Nusumakari Kibaki, the country was burning. Uhuru's issue, the country was in trouble. This one, it was just after AU, then people do handshake. So the necessity wasn't there. And I find that this is problematic. And I want to tell Mr. President that these are non-priorities, misplaced priorities. And let me just explain this one because Sosion is here. He's defending the president. Let me tell you. If you want to know misplaced priorities, Sosion, do you know how much money is needed to implement CBC infrastructure? I've done my research, it's 85 billion shillings. How much has the president disbursed on that? 3.3 billion. He has already disbursed something like, the disbursement is having 96.3% deficit of what he needs to do. Okay. But now, this week we are discussing about IBC and select panel, whom Parliament has already passed, they're going to get 66 billion shillings, and disbursement 100%. So if disbursements about political issues are 100%, economic issues, things about infrastructure is a deficit of 97%, then we are having a problem of misplaced priorities. And I want to tell Mr. President that instead of handshaking anybody, handshake Kenyans by giving them education, healthcare, infrastructure, ensure service delivery happens, but handshake won't save you anyway. But
the president will be needed to explain why he went back on his word politically.
Yeah, all of us live in Kenya, and I don't think we are all slow learners, particularly when information is out in the public and is present before us. We know that during the handing in of the NATCO report, NATCO process was a dialogue process. And as a country, we are a country of political dialogue. And our politics are not cast in stone. For continuity of the country, we appeal to dialogue. And this is not the first time we'll be experiencing such process. And the president made a statement at KICC that then I'll have a broad-based government to bring everybody on board, inclusivity. So walking the road of inclusivity in the manner in which he's doing it is right. And I agree, Raila Odinga is not in government. Which office does he hold in government? He doesn't. He's the leader of ODM. William Ruto is the leader of UDA. They've signed an agreement. And members of ODM have been incorporated into government. That is fact for the purposes of government working. That's the truth. Nothing has happened secretly in Kenya. Unlike the handshake of 2018, where we saw Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta handshaking at Harambee House.
What is so different
and the
this time
content
round?
of all that, there's a big difference. This one has been born out of a dialogical process. There was a process of dialogue. And I think what we should be discussing now very deeply is the transformative agenda of government. How far have we gone with the UHC? How can we make universal health coverage work? How can we make housing work? How can we make ICT infrastructure and development work in this country so that we can put many Kenyans on the digital space? How can we make the MSMEs work? And how can we reinvigorate agriculture? Those key items, how can we make our education work? And I'm sure those are the questions that should even feature in Mount Kenya. Don't tell us about politics of 2027. Let the president talk about the deliverable of the transformative agenda.
Deputy President William Ruto said that the failure by his government, Jubilee government, to implement the Big Four agenda was because of the handshake.
It was even bigger than that, because you remember in I think that's 2022, around that time, I don't remember the exact date, when the handshake happened at this London house that people go, and I think people should stop going to our colonialists, the people who colonized us, to go and make speeches there. Who are you telling? The colonialists? The deputy president then stated very clearly that the handshake had created a mongrel of government, that nobody knew who was in opposition was in government. In fact, his statement said that we don't know whether it's a government that's in the opposition or the opposition in the government. And he repeated that again in many public meetings locally, meaning that we are exactly where he said. Rightly or wrongly, we did come to Nairobi recently, and yes, we are very smart. We read whatever is available. The fact that what he was criticizing at that time is what he's exactly done today. It could be for the benefit of Kenya. Could be. You know, sometimes everything works for good for those that love the Lord, and you only know at the end of it, maybe it could be good for Kenya. But at that time, in his political position, he thought that it was important for you to have a government and you have an opposition, and actually he explained why, so they can have a check and balance. Today, there is no check and balance. And that's what I told you earlier, that today we are spending an hour talking about Mount Kenya visit, while we should actually, really intellectuals like this, thinking, how do we get this country out of this CBC quagmire? How do we get ourselves out of this education quagmire we have? Some of us have said before, we participate in education because we love children. So you go to schools and all that, and watch boys sleeping together in one bed. Okay. Those should be our focus. Okay. But what have the political class made us do? All the time to be able to discuss the political issues, because those seems to matter more than the real issues on the ground. Right. We are talking about we are talking about an economy that is on its knees. I do business, yes, and I know one of the most difficult things for any business in this country today is to pay its debts. Okay. Everyone is rolling them over because there is no cash flow. All right. The business has dropped in terms of sales. Ask anyone, as we watch or somebody. Yes. Those are the issues we should be concentrating on.
Come back to you for your parting shot.
Yeah, but Alex, I like what Alex said. We are saying, if the policy, if the foundation is wrong, everything else corrupts its friend. That's all what we are saying. Because we are not in the executive, right? Mm-hmm. Some of us, when we were there, we worked throughout almost 16 hours in a day, just to try to give our input on what he is saying. Now, we are saying this, if the micro, macro, policies on education and all that. If the policies if there's no system and structure and, some way of having things done at the top level, Fred, however much we come and try to say how things should be done, if the system of making decisions on CBC, on health, on education funding model, right, on this housing issue, if it is force, it's either my way or the highway. If the way of making decisions at the top is wrong, however much we talk about it here, and we should come and begin thinking how to cut debts. The system, the president is on record talking about against the rising public debt 5 years ago, right? Now, he is there now. It is peroring, and the minister have said we must borrow more, okay? Now, there are some gymnastics, like what he was talking about, like KQ. But who owns those aircrafts? Those are the questions Kenyans are asking. Everything that happens in Kenya, unfortunately, is being looked for suspiciously, Fred, because people are thinking there must be something, there must be somebody who is eating, there must be somebody with some interest. So I like, we'll be here. But let me tell you, Fred, without a system that is working, we'll be coming here to give ideas for people who can listen. But the way the infrastructure is like now in this country, the decisions are made elsewhere. Ministers and PSs are told, implement, do as we have told you. Go and fight in the media, defend the indivisible, go. Such that you see somebody who is trying to defend something, they don't believe it themselves. Because they have been told to do it. So I like all this issue, economy, housing, health, and all that. That's why everything is going on downhill. Because the policy is wrong. The foundation, there's no system, way of making decisions. That is the whole problem.
I do 1 more minute just for your parting shot.
For me, I would want to say, we are looking forward. This country is ours. The current government is there. They want to, the focus line now is moving to Mount Kenya. But I want to say, like Alex has said, please, the issues Kenyans are crying about, those are the issues they want addressed. Just answer the questions, and I keep on insisting. Answer the questions on each of the questions Kenyans are asking. They are all over. The questions are all over on each aspect. Just answer the questions. Those are the questions that he needs to answer about all those issues when he goes to Mount Kenya. Answer the questions as they are, and please don't use young people to fight each other. Young people from Mount Kenya to be set against the people of Mount Kenya. We don't want bloodshed, we don't want theft, we don't want looting, we don't want all kind of that. You know how expensive it is to buy one vote.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Mbaye. Professor, 2 minutes for your parting shot.
Yeah, mine is to tell Kenyans that let us not run away from our main question, because politicians are successfully driving us away from the main question, not because they think it's priority, like Alex says, they are incompetent to address them. Because the economic questions, you see, when we went to the street, President says, wait for me in 2027. Now, you see now formations are forming. Now they are driving us away from the arena of economic discussion to arena of political discussion. Unfortunately for us Kenyans, we don't know politics. We just want service delivery. But for them, unfortunately for them, they are experts in politics. They are taking us where they are best at. But they are moving us away from where matters work. What should be the Kenyan question now? The president, unfortunately with his economic team, only have 2 tools for trying to solve the economy: borrowing and overtaxation. It is very minimal. When I listen to John Mbadi and the team, I wonder where Kenya is going anywhere, because they are not addressing the same question. Because if you look at the budget policy statement that has been issued, it cannot help Kenya when someone tells you we are lowering interest rate so that you can have money in the pocket, yet 19 million Kenyans on CRB, that is 66% of adult population. You talked about the pending bills. The best way to sort pending bills, I've seen this happen in Singapore when I was an economist with the Central Bank. When you allow the private sector to thrive in an economy by running a lean and clean government, remove the bureaucracies and red tapes, and the private sector does very well, and you respect the sanctity of the payslip of the people, it is the way on which the private sector does business. They pay themselves. No one is holding pending bills. Okay. But for us in Kenya, the president is doing too much business. I'm building houses. I'm doing this one. He's saying he's a builder. He should even build for me my own kitchen. So in the end, you realize that the government's government was never meant to be efficient, was not born to be efficient, will never be efficient. So allow the efficiency and effectiveness of private sector to run a private sector-driven economy and succeed. Wacha mambo ya kukaa juu ya gari kutafuta kazi uko nayo. Asante.
Asante.
It is deliberate decisions and bold steps that a country has to take to transform the economy. And it is never a walk in the park. And I think the conversation that should shift in Kenya, we should shift from politics, and in every president's visit to every region of the country, and of which the president is visiting to mobilize Kenyans, we should be asking questions about the milestones in agriculture and what has not been done and how it should be done. The milestone in universal health coverage, and what are the gaps, what are the challenges, and how do we make it work? And idemoli, this is one president who has really been bold enough to roll out UHC. Kibaki tried, Uhuru tried, but they couldn't. But this is a time to roll out UHC, and it must work for every Kenyan. In every visit to any region where the president is visiting, we should be asking about the milestones in the housing and the challenges in implementing the housing and how to make it better. The ICT infrastructure and MSME, we should be asking questions about the fixing of our education system. It can't go away. And all the challenges facing the country, be it infrastructure and making Kenya better. If we move our conversation to that level, then I'm sure we will see the country transform. Like it or not, presidents will come and go. The country will remain. Elections will come and go. The country will remain. But I think we should shift our gears and maintain our gears in discussing and evaluating the development pillars, the economic pillars of transformation of the country. I don't want to join my colleagues here in poetic bitterness of politics, but I think we should look at the progressive aspects and transformative agenda for the country. And every day matters for transformation.
Why should you be
Let's
bitter
allow Bwana Mwathi
with a collapsing system? Why should you
Two
be
things.
bitter with a collapsing system?
Two things. Just like I want to remind my friend Mwalimu Sosion that policies are never made on top of vehicles. They are never made on political visits anywhere. Policies are made in offices with the technocrats going to study the reality on the ground and bringing back. So nothing can come out in terms of development when people go around visiting others. It will not work. It's a known fact worldwide. Lee Kuan Yew did not go visit in every corner of Singapore, although it's a small country, so that he could transform it. He had an agenda in his head, he put it on paper and implemented it. Number two, this country has a population of about 67% youth. The so-called youth, people who are under 35. If you put in the people who are in their 40s right now, about 40, that goes to almost 75%. This country belongs to them because they are the future. And because I'm on national TV, I want to speak to them, if you allow me. That this country belongs to you, my friends. This country does not belong to us because the future is in your hands. Please, don't allow yourself to be drawn to political rhetoric that we, when you're in your age, were drawn into. In the 90s and the 2000s, with Moi, with Kibaki, with even Kibaki and the many stories that are told about it, nothing happened to transform the country on a long-term basis. With Uhuru, with Ruto even now, it is your opportunity now to start crafting your future. Because the future is never built by the old. Any country that has been transformed by the young, by them thinking about their future. Think about the words of Lee Kuan Yew when he took over power in Singapore. I think he was about 27 years old. Your age group. He said, I have an opportunity now to be rich, one of the richest men in the world. Or I can make my country the richest country in the world, and I will be rich. He chose the second choice. Please choose the second choice as you walk around.
Thank you so much, Alex Mwathi, political analyst. Wilson Sosion, Mwalimu Wilson Sosion, was served as SG for KNUT and also in the National Assembly. Dr. Peter Mbai, leadership and governance expert, and Professor Fred Ogola, economics and governance expert. Our panelists this morning as we take a look at, of course, the biggest discussion being the reshuffle of cabinet, a mini reshuffle rather, and the anticipated trip by the president to the Mount Kenya region. That has been a very good debate. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time at TV47. After the break, we'll be talking about matters law, distribution of property acquired by unmarried partners, who you may refer to as besties. Paul Masharia, advocate of the High Court, will be in studio with my colleague Arno Dida. My name is Fred Indemuli. Have a lovely day.